right, folks. Well, hey, I believe this is a good time to get started. We're a minute over at the moment right now, and I know we might have a few more dropping in, but I just want to say hello and welcome to our webinar here today, focused on security. At the moment, we do have an icebreaker question posed on the beginning of the screen here. What is your one concern you have about security of drone captured data? To answer these questions and any questions throughout the webinar, we do at the bottom of the screen, you have a Q&A section. Please use that to type in questions you'd like for us to answer at the end or any and throughout there. Please use that and we'll be able to dive in when those are available. Otherwise, I believe it's time to get started. Folks, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and move to the next at this moment right now. So right now, this is going to be securing drone captured data with DroneSense, focused on security here. We're real excited to have you here today. We will be recording this session, so we'll be on demand later on our YouTube channel. But yes, otherwise, next slide, please. I would love to take a moment to introduce to Alex Haslach and have a moment to introduce yourself and chat more about being our staff security engineer and a little bit from yourself. Alex.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. So I've been with DroneSense for a bit over a year now, and it has been really exciting to see the journey that DroneSense has gone on in terms of being the leading platform for drone operations, and how we approach security here has been something that's been really exciting and really rewarding for me. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I can say, with confidence that this is my favorite place that I've ever worked, just in terms of the energy and the dedication that everybody has to the mission that we're on to, just provide a really stable and secure and reliable platform for drone operations. And flying drones is pretty cool too. So absolutely stoked to be here, and really thrilled to be able to tell you a little bit more about how we do security here at DroneSense.
Awesome, thank you, Alex. And yes, it's wonderful working with you here. You're always someone that's great to pose questions for, and always someone that's immediately there with answers and one of detail beyond words. So, well, good stuff. Next slide. Let's dive into some of our agenda here today. We're going to be going into how can a third-party software enhance the security of your drone program, how to keep video data safe while streaming and archived, tips for keeping your devices from being hacked, manual reporting, is it safe or not safe, security of our platform here at DroneSense, how does security transcend national borders, and then we'll dive into that Q&A. Well, good stuff. Now, next slide. All right. Now, I'm going to be posing some questions and be asking Alex a lot of this. One of the beautiful things here at DroneSense is we have a lot of subject matter experts, and Alex is our subject matter expert on these topics, and just a wealth of knowledge here. So love to pose some questions here and kind of open this up for discussion. But how can third-party software enhance the security of your drone program? Now, Alex, would you like to expand on this a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to operating a drone program, you've got a lot of different moving pieces. You've got the drones themselves, the aircraft themselves, but then you also have a number of different software applications, as well as platforms and services that are involved. Things like, flight data recording and weather and mapping and communications between pilots, maintenance records, incident and crash reporting, inventory. There's so many different things that go into it. And, there are also concerns among some, jurisdictions about drones that are manufactured overseas. And so a lot of this stuff kind of comes together and points to a solution that DroneSense is presenting with our platform, which is that we act as a sort of a secure and trusted intermediary between our customers and their organizations and their drone flight operations and all of the other external entities that are necessary to interact with in order to accomplish their missions. So as an example, with DroneSense, you can use our software to fly the drone rather than using the first-party software that's provided by the drone manufacturer. Our software development is done all here in the United States. We have a SOC 2 certification for the way that we operate our organization and our security posture and the way that we build our software and we operate the platform. And so when you are using DroneSense, you can get a real assurance of the reliability and the security of the platform that you may or may not be able to get when you bring in a lot of other external entities and you're trying to manage all of those interactions and relationships on your own. So I think that's one big benefit that DroneSense brings over other solutions, is that we are kind of an all-in-one solution that can provide the capabilities necessary to operate your program and do it in a secure way.
Wonderful way. Yeah, Alex. Now, thank you for that. Now, could you expand on, and just for a whole audience too, what is SOC 2 certification?
Yeah, so SOC 2 is a standard developed by the AICPA, and it's basically about how you implement a security program and the controls that you put in place. And when we say control, we kind of mean like a protection. So like running a firewall would be an example of a control, really simplistically. But it's about how you implement the controls to protect all of your assets. And more importantly, it's measuring the effectiveness of those controls and measuring the effectiveness of those controls over a period of time, a period of 1 year. So you not only have to prove that you have implemented controls and that those controls are effective, but you have to demonstrate with evidence that those controls are continuously effective over the entire evaluation period. So it's one of the more rigorous and well-respected standards for certifying the security of an organization, because it goes to that level of rigor that we have to, ensure that we can prove that our controls are always effective and that they are well designed and well operated.
Thank you for that, Alex. Yeah, it's a lot that goes into it. Now, you briefly already answered this a little bit, but even maybe to dive in a little further here, what steps can users take to mitigate security risk when using foreign-made drones?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody has to make a decision about, the cost, capability, the software involved, other things like the controllers and the other types of hardware that go into it, like RTK sensors, for example, and figure out what platform makes the most sense for their operations. And in many cases, those aircraft that are best suited to fulfill those missions are manufactured overseas, like DJI is an example. So while we want to get the capabilities and the cost profile of those devices, we also want to make sure that we retain a level of control and assurance over the operations by using software like DroneSense. Because as I said, like we retain all of the data that we generate through the use of our platform here in the US or in whatever locality our customers might operate in. So, for example, if they operate overseas, it would be in their local legal jurisdiction. And so that's one key difference between using the first-party applications and software. The other key thing is that when you are actually interacting with the drone, you can use our software and also, just basically ensure that from end to end, from the aircraft all the way to the end product, operating on our servers, that every step of the way is well understood and well controlled. So I would say that's probably the main thing is, going to a vendor, a provider like us that can give you that assurance that, your data is being kept confidential and that it can't be accessed by anybody without your permission, and that upon request you can have your data deleted or ask to verify the accuracy of your data. Our privacy policy speaks to that. So we give a lot of advantages in that space, and I think that's probably the very first thing that I would look towards, because if you are not an organization that is focused on doing drone research specifically, you're probably not going to be like disassembling and reverse engineering drones, drone hardware, the firmware that goes on the drones, the
You want it to be
software
just like an
that goes
out
on
of
the
the box thing,
controllers,
right? And then drone sense, right?
etc.
Like it's not
Absolutely.
pulling it all apart. Yeah.
Right. But that's our mission. So we do stuff like that. And so we offer that higher level of assurance because that's what we do in entire.
No, and when we say foreign made drones, I mean this is a question we field I think often, but this is the same similar steps, right? For even American made drones or so on. Would you say that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I very specifically said foreign made drones because it's not just China. Drones are manufactured in all sorts of different countries. France, Israel, there's Turkey makes a lot of drones. Like there are drones that are manufactured all over the place, all over the world. And navigating that space can get very complex. And it's also even true with stuff that's manufactured in the US. You have to really, put a lot of effort into determining whether or not you can trust and rely upon the equipment and the software that you're using. And I think using DroneSense really takes a lot of that risk and a lot of that burden off of the end users, off of the customers, and places it kind of on our shoulders to manage that for you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Alex. Slide, please. Let's go into next topic here, and that is how to keep video data safe while streaming and archived. Alex, could you expand on this for us?
Yeah, absolutely. We often get questions from customers about, how do I know that the, video streams that I'm generating from my drone flights are only viewable by like myself or my organization? And we have a pretty simple answer to that, and then we have more complicated explanations that we can go deeper into. But to keep it really general on the surface, the key factors here keeping your video streams secure are that we have encryption from the aircraft to the controller. That radio signal is encrypted. And then from the controller to our servers, that's also encrypted. And then from our servers to you, the client who is interacting with that connection is also encrypted. So every step of the way, the video stream is encrypted such that only you or whoever you within the platform authorize to also view that stream has the ability to view it. Nobody else does, including DroneSense. We don't have the ability to view your streams either. So I think that's like the really basic answer is we ensure that that encryption is strong and it is in place on every step of the communications path from the aircraft to the client.
Great. Now, what are maybe as we talked about some great steps before, maybe we can talk about what are some of the best practices here for securely archiving drone captured video data as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big problem because the amount of data that can be generated by drones in terms of video and photo is huge. Those video files can get very large. So, best practices involve having a dedicated capability to storing and managing those files. Now, that could be a local storage device in your physical offices, like a network attached storage or NAS machine. Um, could be a dedicated physical or virtual server provided by your organization's IT, where you store that data. Um, whatever solution you go, or it could be a cloud solution. Like, for example, Axon provides evidence.com, and that's an integration that DroneSense has as well. So if you like whatever solution you choose, manage it yourself, have it be managed by your IT department, or managed by a third-party software as a service like evidence.com. You want to make sure that whoever is managing that controls pretty tightly the access to that data. So access control is the first thing I would say. We don't want to be
Not just like leaving
granting.
your SSD just hanging around or anything like that.
Exactly. We don't want to be granting broad access to that drone captured data to just anybody, especially in the context of like criminal justice information, law enforcement, things like that. But there's also, potential concerns for proprietary information for like mapping or safety inspections or other things like that, where there might be some sensitivity to that data, and you want to make sure that only the people you authorize have access to it. So carefully determining who should have access to that and implementing those controls are the first thing I would say. And then, the other big thing is effective backups and disaster recovery planning. If we just have something sitting on a thumb drive or on a pile of micro SD cards, those things tend to get lost very easily. Having copies that are physically separate from your main storage is a really good idea. So if there's like a flood or a storm or something like that, that your main archive of that data doesn't get physically wiped out. If you're storing things in the cloud, that can definitely provide that capability as well, maybe by default, just by using that service. So that's one potential option as well. But whatever you do, making sure that you have redundant copies of your data and that the data in one place is not subject to the same risks as the copy of the data, if that makes sense. So, if you're worried about like a hurricane, for example, you might want to move the copies to a different state or, somewhere inland versus like in the building next door to your primary location.
So at DroneSense, it makes it, we have encrypted and secure, and we have very, very well put together protocols to secure your data. But yet there is an extra step here that you are talking about that is actually putting together protocol and actual concept to really secure your data on the back end of the other side of it too. It's a bigger picture, but with DroneSense, we're making it much easier. Is that correct as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There is an element of shared responsibility. We kind of discuss it like where, excuse me, the interaction between the drone manufacturer, the aircraft manufacturer, DroneSense, the platform provider, and the customer forms this kind of network where like we all share responsibility for keeping these things secure and functional. And so some of the things that are outside of the scope of what DroneSense does fall on the customer's responsibility. And we are, of course, happy to assist customers with that and give advice and give training. But once data leaves the drone and it's not sort of a part of the platform anymore, that becomes the customer's responsibility to determine how to secure that.
Great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely.
Well, good stuff. Well, now we're talking about, let's talk about the next step here, which is, not just the protocol of keeping data secure and so on, but then what we might have to worry about of outside entities. Slide, please. Let's dive into tips for keeping devices from being hacked. We've got a couple bullet points here I'd love to expand on with you, Alex. We'll start with the first one. Keeping operating systems up to date, so like not jailbreaking your phone and such. Would you mind talking through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So very typically we are using either an Android or an iOS mobile device to act as our controller. And so when we're doing that, we want to make sure that we are that we're using that device only for our drone operations. We don't want to share that device, between like personal and operational usage. So having a dedicated device that you keep up to date, install all of the manufacturer provided operating system updates, and don't circumvent the built-in protections of that device against being hacked. So on iPhone, it's known as jailbreaking. On Android, it's known as rooting or unlocking. But basically, the mobile devices are by default a little bit locked down and restricted in terms of what can run on them and what you can do with them. It is possible to remove those restrictions, and that can be useful in some cases, but it does come with it a risk that that device could be exploited because those protections have been removed.
Makes sense. Now, don't install low reputation apps. Let's talk about this a little further. Not just because they maybe not the best app, but why would we say that?
Yeah, so we have seen that on occasion, attackers are able to sort of sneak applications by the App Store reviews that probably shouldn't have gotten approved to go out onto the app stores. And one way that you can protect yourself from this is only using applications that are well known to you and have a good public reputation. So, the Facebook app on your mobile, app store is very unlikely to be like dangerous or hijacked by a third party. It's a well-known, well-trusted entity. Same thing with like the application for your banking provider or, Netflix or something like that. Apps that have millions of downloads, well understood, thoroughly used, thoroughly scrutinized, and very low risk of anything bad happening to your device from a malicious actor. But if there are to use kind of an older example, like flashlight apps or things like that, back in the day, there used to be hundreds of those. Very frequently, the sort of like advertised purpose of the app was really just a charade, and the real purpose of the app behind that was to, gather data, show ads to you, just do sort of, shady gray area stuff. So when we're talking about a professional device that is being used by your organization to, pilot drones or to view drone streams, we strongly recommend just strictly limiting the applications that you install onto those to just the ones that are necessary. and keeping those low reputation apps off of the operational devices.
It's kind of
And
almost reminds me of like
definitely,
shopping for food, right? Like in like a local area, you don't want to, you see that one that has perfect 5 stars but only 4 reviews, and then you have the
yeah,
one that has 50,000 reviews and 4.7 stars. You got to go with that one, right?
that's right. I don't know
Keep
if I
it
want to
simple.
eat at that restaurant that only has 4 reviews. That might be fake.
Yeah,
Yeah, and also as a side note on that, only install apps directly from the manufacturer's app store. Don't side load apps or like try to get apps outside of that ecosystem, because in those cases you have absolutely no review, no editorial process. It's just, kind of the Wild
sure.
West. So that would be my recommendation there.
And at DroneSense, we have some good best practices too to download on how to download software or so on, or how to bring an app into the hardware you guys are using and such. So, yeah, seek us
Right.
out and more on that side.
Yeah,
Well, great. Well,
absolutely.
let's dive into make sure the device uh, you're using to access the platform is well approved. So, could you expand on this?
Yeah, this just kind of carries on the conversation from the previous 2 points. Um, we want to make sure that whether it's a personally owned device that's being managed by the organization or it's an organization-owned device, that the device that you're using to access the platform and to actually perform those drone operations is work approved, known to your organization, and accepted. Uh, we highly recommend keeping everything within a like known and trusted group of systems or devices, and not introducing outside stuff to that without first vetting them and approving them.
Gotcha. Good
And
best
same
practices
story with the
there.
next one too. Use secure networks. Um,
Okay.
it would be, although the connections are encrypted, so we are technically protected against that, there are certain kinds of attacks that are theoretically possible against encrypted connections. And so while it's a pretty low likelihood and low risk situation, um, we'd still recommend connecting to like known and trusted networks, like the cellular like 5G network from your cell provider, or the network put out by your hotspot if you're out in the field, or like if you're using a satellite connection like Starlink, something like that,
Not
as
like FBI
opposed to
surveillance van that you just see as a random
right,
Wi-Fi.
yeah, as
Don't use
opposed
that
to
one.
just the random in-flight Wi-Fi that you see somewhere,
Yeah.
but you're not on an airplane. That's weird.
Bob's Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Don't use that. No.
exactly.
Gotcha. Now, with even with talking about devices, now, what steps should be taken if a device used for operations is suspected to be compromised?
Yeah, great question. I believe that's the next slide, right?
Let's see.
Oh, no. Okay. So,
No,
yeah,
okay.
if you do suspect a device of being compromised, whether that be, you're observing weird behavior, or
Mhm.
you have, like I think almost everybody in the world has at this point, fallen victim to a social engineering attack and clicked a link that you realized later you shouldn't have clicked, or done some other action that later you think about and you're like, that was kind of suspicious. Definitely first thing to do is report it to your organization's IT department or security department. Um, would recommend uh, not utilizing that device until it's been inspected and cleared for use again. And if it has been compromised, some of the things that they might do is, do a factory reset and wipe the device. They might use some forensic software to determine what actually was done on the device and just reverse those actions. It really depends on how each organization, uh, plans to deal with those kinds of security events. But I think the first step is definitely awareness, and also, open and rapid reporting of, any suspicions that you might have. So if you see something, say something.
Is there any other proactive behavior we could do to help always keep these devices secured other than what you mentioned, like keeping everything in kind of a set parameter? But is there any other points you would say here?
Yeah, some of the other things that can be done is running endpoint protection software on devices. So whether that be a laptop or a tablet or a mobile device, there are software packages that you can get that sort of provide an extra layer of protection on top of what's already built in. At DroneSense, we use endpoint protection on all of our endpoints, and it gives us a great deal of visibility into the behavior of those devices and whether or not they are accessing like if they've downloaded a file that turns out to be a virus, like it will notify us, clear that file out. If they access a website or receive an email that is infected, we'll get a notification. It'll block that stuff and give us the ability to respond. So that would be a good recommendation to be more proactive, is to have some kind of extra layer of protection, whether like traditionally called antivirus, but it really goes beyond that nowadays. So some companies might call it next generation antivirus. They might call it endpoint detection and response, EDR. I might call it XDR, which I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounds really cool. But the practical upshot is the same. It's an extra layer of protection on those devices that gives you the ability to go above and beyond what you would normally be able to do in order to respond to any security incidents as well as prevent them from happening.
And something I'm kind of hearing in a theme here too is like there's all these incredible like protocols or DroneSense encryptions and all these different things that we're doing, but there's also responsibility that also comes. There's an engagement that you have to also do to make sure that you're secure or your agency is secure and so on. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It can come down to something as simple as using strong passwords or PIN codes or biometrics on the devices that you're using to pilot the drones or access the platform. DroneSense can be the most secure platform in the world, but if you're utilizing a laptop to access Ops Hub, and you leave your computer unlocked and you leave it on a table in a train station, there's nothing that we or anyone else can really do about that. So there is an element of responsibility there, like we mentioned before. And again, we're always happy to support and give advice to our customers on how to implement those best practices. We like to be a good corporate citizen and part of the community in terms of what we contribute back from a security perspective. And so I think, yeah, that is something that everybody should keep in mind.
And here at DroneSense, it's not just we're like it's a whole group of subject matter experts here, but we have people that come from either fire or law enforcement or just public safety in general, and can even guide you a little further on best practices that maybe suit your agency or department's needs even a little bit better too. So just reach out to us more when it comes to this. But excellent, thank you, Alex, for this. Now, I would like to dive into the next slide and go into manual reporting. Now, this is something that's not, is it safe or is it not safe? And just like how you could get ants, it's not how we don't want you to get ants. We don't want you to get that bad data. Now, Alex, could you expand on why if manual reporting is safe or not safe, and maybe some good practices here?
Yeah, safe or not safe. I think the key point is that is it accurate or is it inaccurate? And that's really, I think, what it comes down to. When you are trying to manually manage the large volume of data that you have to contend with in order to provide metrics, statistics, and valid reports on your drone operations. If you're trying to do that manually, that is an incredibly challenging task, and it is likely to be slow
Remember those
and
days of
error
spreadsheets
prone.
and paper
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff out in the field? No. If only there
exactly.
was a software that would make this just
If
so much
only there was
easier
a
and automated.
solution,
Only,
what could we do?
only
Well,
something would make sense.
yeah, stop the insanity. DroneSense has a very robust uh, data collection and advanced reporting capability built into it. In terms of, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, your flight data logs, your FFA or FAA notifications and notices, your certifications, your training status, your maintenance status, any incident or crash reporting that you have to do, how many flight hours your pilots have logged. There's a vast amount of sort of metadata about these operations and these flights that are very important, that if you don't have a strategy for collecting, aggregating, and organizing, and then utilizing that data, things can get very complicated very fast. So, we're pretty proud of what we've got in terms of the ability to manage all of that sort of back end stuff that isn't the actual flying of the drone, but is equally important to the success of the program. Given that our people here at DroneSense are all, very enthusiastic about flying drones and have also had a great deal of professional experience utilizing drones in lots of different contexts, like you were mentioning, Joe. We deeply understand that challenge, and we've built the platform to address that specifically in a drone program.
It's, where we're saying, I mean, this just expands that the DroneSense can ensure the accuracy and the integrity of data during the reporting process, and it's just it's just an amazing place, and just let us help you make it much easier. So
Yeah.
excellent. Now, what are with reporting here? What are some of the key security features of DroneSense and reporting that you could expand on here?
Yeah. So when the data is collected, it's automatically ingested and organized in the platform. So there's no manual step of loading the data into the platform that you have to worry about. So that would be the first one. Um, we interoperate directly with the drone, the aircraft itself, to gather and collect that data, live. So we're getting the data directly from the source. It's not interpreted by anything. And then when we parse that data and load it into the database, we have a verifiable set where you can know for sure that nothing has been modified or tampered with because of the way that the architecture and the platform has been built. Now, yes, there are capabilities to modify data thereafter if you need to make a note or a correction or something, but any further access to or modifications, updates, deletes of data are logged. So you have a paper trail of exactly what has happened with the data once it is in the platform. So I think that's another key element, is that um, you know in a spreadsheet, it's a lot harder to know, like, who updated a value in this cell. Was it Joe or was it Alex? Versus in, DroneSense, you know exactly what has happened and by whom. And so everything is sort of traceable and verifiable. In
You
addition
could
to
have the
that,
smartest smart sheet ever, but it's still not gonna it's not gonna know what to do with this metadata. And instantaneously, right? Like it is just
Yep.
it's fascinating to watch it all come together.
It is. And beyond that, the access controls and permissions that we've built into the platform give our customers the ability to um, preemptively grant or not grant the permissions to the users in their organization to, see the data or to, make reports out of the data or not see the data at all. And so you can really strictly limit who has access to that data to just the people who need it. And that also dramatically reduces the potential for, errors, omissions, other types of activity.
Great. Now, how do users access controls enhance the security of data reporting process?
Yeah. Making sure that uh, you limit the access that folks have to the data to only people who need it ensures that there are less opportunities for people either intentionally or unintentionally modifying the data or impacting the security and integrity of that data. So, as a hypothetical example, if you're doing manual reporting and you're using spreadsheets and uh, you know, clipboards and forms and scanned documents and stuff. Um, a pilot wasn't supposed to be flying outside of this particular time window, or they weren't supposed to go beyond the specific, geographic boundary, but they did. Well, somebody might have an incentive to fudge the numbers a little bit. Like, oh, let's just change that, 4 to a 3, and now we're all good, right? So that's not a concern when we're using DroneSense. We don't have to worry about that because everything is automatically aggregated and stored and verifiable. And in addition to that, when you're doing the reporting, um, what you choose to filter out or include in the data set matters a lot. So, just having that be a more controlled and centralized function, I think, lends itself strongly to being able to be assured that that reporting is accurate and complete.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex, for this. Appreciate this. Next slide, please. Now let's dive into the security of our platform. We have some pinnacles here, and I'd love for you to kind of walk through each of these from 1, 2, and 3. You can dive in. Let's start with confidentiality.
Yeah, so confidentiality is probably the element of security that most people are familiar with. It's basically keeping things that are supposed to be secret, and sharing things with who they're supposed to be shared with. So, if I send an email to Joe, I want Joe to read that email. I don't want Sarah to read that email unless I CC Sarah on that email. So, if Joe shares that email with Sarah, or if Sarah, takes a peek over Joe's shoulder and sees his laptop screen and reads it, well, then the confidentiality of that information has been impacted. Um, so that's how we think about confidentiality. And we've spoken about a lot of different things that DroneSense helps our customers keep confidential. Just basically everything that is done with the platform, all of the customer data is housed in um, servers and data centers that are local to our clients, subject to the same laws of our clients' local jurisdiction. So they're protected by all of the same state and federal or national data privacy and computer security regulations. In addition to that, we give our customers the ability to, you know, request access, like to copy of the data or to have the data deleted. We only retain customer data for the duration of a customer contract, and that's a standard term. And we also retain customer data for a 90-day grace period after the contract ends to give customers the opportunity to request a copy of the data, or if they want to re-sign a contract for the data to be continuous through there. But after that 90-day grace period ends, we delete the data and it's gone. So, unlike some service providers in different industries and different verticals that sort of treat data as like a resource that becomes theirs because of the fact you use their platform, DroneSense doesn't think of it like that. DroneSense believes that your data belongs to you, that we are stewards of your data, and we use the data that you provide to us only for the purpose of providing you the services of our platform. We don't use it for marketing or research. We don't share it with anybody. We don't use it for any other purpose other than letting you use the platform. So that's the sort of confidentiality element. Integrity is kind of a spin on that, where it's more about like, does the data stay the same? Is it not like modified without somebody's knowledge or approval, or in some other way corrupted? So an example of data integrity might be, I send Joe an email, but somewhere along the way, the message gets scrambled. And then what comes across to Joe's email inbox is just like a garble of, letters and emojis and stuff, and it doesn't make any sense. So when we are, that's a lot of what we were talking about with the reporting. Reporting is very heavily focused on data integrity, making sure that the data that we first observe is the data that we get into the platform, is the data that is used for the reporting, and that any modifications to that are only done with approval and are properly logged and are auditable, so people can be sure that nothing has been changed that wasn't supposed to be. But the part that we haven't really touched on yet that I think is super important to cover, because it's something that we often forget about, even in security, is the responsibility to make sure that we maintain the availability of our systems. And we were joking as we were, putting this deck together about the
Yes.
Waffle House and how,
one of my favorite
24/7,
things ever. And it's
365.
the Waffle House Index, right? Like it's just the FEMA even uses this. I love it. Continue.
Yeah, and unless there is a regional crisis of some kind, you can be sure that at any time of day, any day of the week, you can go to the Waffle House and they will be serving your waffles and your hash browns and your eggs, just like they did the day before. And so, that's kind of a funny little analogy to what we think about at DroneSense is our responsibility to be available, highly available, because of the importance and the sensitive nature of what our clients typically use our platform for. So what we do to achieve this is we have infrastructure that can be redeployed at a moment's notice if there is some sort of an issue. So, unlike Delta recently had a big problem, had to shut down flights, that's kind of a consequence of the types of infrastructure that they have. Whereas, if DroneSense were impacted by a situation like that, not that we would be, because we take precautions against those types of situations, but let's say hypothetically we could have the whole platform stood back up in under 15 minutes. So, that's the kind of reliability that we're going for. And, even beyond that, like we prevent the platform from going down in the first place by operating multiple redundant, highly available servers and server clusters, really, at multiple different data centers around the US. So at any given time, the DroneSense platform is actually operating out of at least 3, if not 5 or more physical data centers in the United States alone. And for international customers, it varies by the number of what Amazon or AWS calls availability zones. But at a minimum, we're using 2 availability zones everywhere. So no matter what, even if a comet strikes the Earth and obliterates one of the data centers that our platform is operating out of, we're going to stay online. And so that's the kind of availability promise that we give. And we have firm commitments in our contracts about that. So we take that very seriously. And we, work really hard to make sure that, the applications don't crash. The platform is always available and accessible. And that's not to say that there aren't bugs sometimes, but we strive to minimize and eliminate those proactively, and to make sure that when you need DroneSense, that it's there for you.
Great. Now, Alex, could you expand on maybe DroneSense, our platform's multi-layer security protocols that work directly with the protected drone captured data?
Yes. So, like we were saying before, a key of that is how, the data is encrypted from end to end to end. But in addition to that, we have multi-factor authentication required for all users of the platform. So it is very difficult for a hypothetical attacker to hijack an account of somebody who's a valid user of the DroneSense platform and thereby impersonate them or use their account without permission. We require all of the mobile devices that are used to connect to our platform to have PIN codes, and we enforce a PIN code on the app as well. So that's another layer of protection. And within the platform, there's multiple different ways to share video from either user to user, or between organizations and missions as well. So in a very simple scenario, you can imagine that an organization is flying a mission, which is its own self-contained sort of concept in the platform. And Joe and I are a part of the mission, and Sarah's not a part of the mission. We can invite Sarah to the mission so that she is also a user that is part of that. And then we can grant the permissions for Joe to share video to Sarah and Sarah to share video to Alex, etc. That all can happen within the platform and is controlled entirely by the organization administrators who are appointed by each organization to manage the permissions in the environment. Another thing that can be done is to generate what we call a magic video link, which can be shared outside of the context of an organization or a mission. So, for example, if there is something that the local fire department needs to share with the Forestry Service or something, and Forestry Service doesn't have an account on DroneSense, first of all, we'd like you to send them to our sales team because I think we could do a good job for them. But in addition to that, if they don't have access to the platform and they can't be shared with through the standard means, you can generate what we call a magic video link that can be viewed by anyone that you send the link to. So, that's a pretty powerful capability. And the link is an anonymous and randomly generated link that you could not like Google and find it, or guess what the link or code is going to be. So it's protected in that way. But anybody that you send that link to can actually view it. And so customers need to be careful about how they utilize that capability. We, strongly recommend doing our video sharing and also even, sharing of remote piloting capabilities within the platform. But we do provide that capability with the Magic Video Link to share that data outside if necessary, because we have seen in many situations that, especially in emergencies, events happen quickly. And so there's not a lot of time to necessarily like onboard an entire organization just so they can view a video stream of like, say, hey, there's a car on fire and it's parked in this, like state park parking lot and it's starting a wildfire or something. You want to just be able to get on that really quick. So, that's the kind of thing, again, where we're talking about our shared responsibilities and how, we work with customers and give them really powerful capabilities that, could potentially be risky. But I think with the guidance that we give our customers and the training, we minimize that risk while still keeping the power of those capabilities intact.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the most powerful tools here, one of the many. Well, excellent. Well, now let's take this and talk about security outside of the United States. And let's move slide, please. How does security transcend national borders? Let's talk a little bit more about this, Alex.
Yeah. So, first of all, like I said, we have data centers in every region in which we operate. So if you are a customer in Sweden, we've got servers in Sweden and your data stays in Sweden. And if you are a customer in the US, same thing. Data stays in the US, all the servers are in the US. We've got customers in Europe, we've got customers in South America, we've got customers all around the world. And in every case, we strive to localize the platform and the data to them. First of all, for performance reasons, it's much faster to access a server in, Sydney, Australia, if you're in Brisbane, than it is to access a server in, West Virginia. But beyond that, we want to make sure that, organizations are comfortable that the laws and the regulations that they're familiar with apply. And so that's why we operate internationally. In addition to that localization posture and running a platform for everybody in the world, we also make sure that we comply with security standards and regulations that might not be as common in the US. So like, for example, excuse me.
Like say GDP or GDPR, or say the
that's correct.
ISO 27001.
That's right. So, whereas in the United States, SOC 2 Type 2 certification is kind of like the gold standard for ensuring that an organization has a strong security posture. In the UK and in Europe and elsewhere internationally, it's actually more common to see ISO 27001. So we have done an evaluation of all of the different regulations and laws that apply in our different localities where we operate, and we assiduously comply to all of those to make sure that we are operating within the boundaries of the local laws of the jurisdictions where we're at, as well as following the best practices as dictated by the regulatory agencies that operate there.
So it's much bigger, and it's really particular to each and every country, region, so on. I mean, we are moving and trying to find the best, and we are finding the best way to keep everything secure, and the protocols that we keep in the United States as well outside.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, excellent. Well, now all this amount of information, Alex, I mean, there's just, I'm, even absorbing more from you today, and there's just so much and such a wealth of knowledge here. Something I'd love to expand on, and slide, please, would be, you're someone that we can lean on to understand more of this. And if you're comfortable opening that door, I'd let you kind of open up that to those listening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I go on calls with both current as well as prospective future customers all the time to talk about this stuff. Um, I answer a lot of security questionnaires that organizations send me that ask us to describe various details of how our security program works and what controls we put in place. Um, and I'm really always open to discussing these concepts and how we put them into practice with, just about anybody. So one thing that folks can do if they want to reach us and reach me in particular is email security@dronesense.com. Um, and they can, get a hold of me and we can either chat over email or set up a short call and really go into the issues as necessary. But beyond that, we've also got some pretty cool resources at our trust page, which is located at trust.dronesense.com. And there you can request access to our latest SOC 2 report and the certification that we got from our external independent auditor. You can access architectural diagrams of how our systems are connected to each other and where the firewalls are placed and how we have implemented a secure architecture for our platform. You can access guidance for how to configure your own local firewalls at your organization to allow things like video streaming traffic to traverse the firewall effectively. And a number of our security policies and standards that we adhere to. So you can see exactly what sort of commitments that we have made to security in our organization and to the security of our customers. So feel free to visit. That's trust.dronesense.com and go ahead and click the request access button. You'll have to agree to a very simple NDA, which basically just says, I agree to only use this information to evaluate the product of DroneSense and not do anything else with it, which, is kind of the intent. And then I'll grant you access and you can do your own research and see, kind of what we've got going. So we're really happy about that. It gives us the ability to share more widely with both our current and prospective customers about how we do what we do, which is really exciting.
Excellent. And what was the email to reach out directly to you as well?
Yep, the direct email that goes to me as well as several other key members of the organization involved in security is security@dronesense.com.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Well, good stuff, everyone. Now, this is coming to the end of our webinar, so I'd like to open this up to questions from anyone that would like here. Again, Q&A there at the bottom of your screen. Please jump in there. In the meantime, I'd love to answer or kind of even talk through this response to our original icebreaker question, which was, what's one concern you have about the security of drone captured data? And an anonymous just sent in, navigating the concerns revolving around capture and retention of data with what is being viewed as an independent ban on certain types of drones. We would like a way to present DroneSense as a way to circumvent that concern so our agency can move forward with purchasing our drones we've already approved of. It has since been paused while we figured this issue out. Great. Alex, let's expand a little bit on this here.
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. And it is one of the types of questions that we get a lot. And being an answer to this type of question is one of the key benefits of DroneSense that we've been trying to highlight here today. So, DroneSense as a way to circumvent that concern, I would say as a way to mitigate that risk that is perceived or, the risk that is seen with using certain types of drones, DroneSense is a effective mitigation against that risk. So, for a lot of the reasons that we discussed, as well as if you want to get into some more technical details of our implementation and how our software is built and how we control the drones, even though we don't use any like first-party software applications to do so. That I think is something that you can take to your agency and to the leadership and the other stakeholders that need convincing that using a solution like DroneSense sort of gives you a lot more assurance and addresses a lot of that risk in a way that an agency can be comfortable with. And just as a note, really recently, the FBI released an advisory about this exact topic. And one of the key things that they called out is that the use of third-party platforms and software can be an effective mitigation against the risks of using certain types of drones. So, I would definitely cite that advisory that came out of the FBI, and also, be happy to talk to anybody who needs convincing. But, as a security professional, I do believe very strongly that we've built a solution that does address a lot of that risk.
Excellent. And thank you, Anonymous, for that wonderful question and posed conversation there. Well, wonderful, everyone. Hey, thanks again for joining us today. Really appreciated a wonderful conversation we had here with Alex. And, I'm sure other questions will come up. And please reach out to us. We'd love to dive in a little further. On behalf of Joe, my name is Joe Kearns. On behalf of DroneSense, just thank you so much. And Alex, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, folks. Take care.